The shadows creep as twilight fades away. The shadows be darling and take a light of day. In the silence of the night, darkness breathes.
How do you get brains off a wall? That's what Desmond was thinking as he scrubbed. Felt like he'd been scrubbing for days, but in reality, only been a couple of minutes. He had seen some strange things during his time as a bartender at Frog's Legs. Frog's Legs was one of those bars on the outskirts of the outskirts. Only people who had grown up around the block knew about Frog's Legs. It's the kind of place you crawled into after a life of hard labor, if you get what I mean. The brains on the wall belonged to Lewis. A couple of cops had come into Frog's Legs looking for the father of a girl who had been murdered recently. 2 cops, actually. Man and a woman, clean cut, hours away from their homes. Homes that didn't have boards on their 1-story windows. Homes that had indoor showers. Homes with air conditioners instead of dirty fans. They couldn't have talked for more than 5 minutes before it happened. See, Lewis pulled out a high-point C9 semi-automatic pistol and blew his brains out all over the floor and the wall. 2 days later, when the bar was open and the cops had done their due diligence to inspect this crime scene, Desmond saw it. Brains on the walls. Was this evidence? What do you do with pieces of brain? You can't just throw it out, can you? Desmond wasn't old enough to drink, but that never stopped him from pouring. He had worked there for almost 6 months. He looked older than his age. Having only one eye will do that to you. It was a sickness he suffered from as a child that took his right eye. Instead of dark brown, soul-piercing white. Like the overhead light in the waiting room. The kind of shine that makes you slink in your seat and turn away. And that's how people saw Desmond. They turned away. His uncle gave him the gig after suffering from a heart attack. See, employment in this part of New Orleans was limited, to say the least. If you want to make a killing with tips, Frog's Legs wasn't for you. The only people who Frog's Legs was for are men who were born within a 6-block radius. They had skin like leather. Their entire lives had been spent outside, picking, planting, weeding, welding. Look forward to a cold beer all week. It was one of the few carrots that they could chase to make their lives digestible. On a good day, there was 10 people. The operative word being day. Frog's Legs shut down at 7. They gave the limited clientele ample time to get home before the sun went down. This was tradition for as long as Desmond had memories. He can't remember ever being inside that bar when it was dark outside. As a boy, he'd asked his uncle for a reason. Why not stay open late? Isn't that when bars made their money?
Listen up, boy. The devil don't care about money. The devil wants your soul.
That's what Desmond's uncle told him. It was the last question he ever asked about the subject. You stay quiet too if you saw the look on Unc's face when he said it. Now, Lewis was not her father, the girl who got killed. And by killed, she had her body parts chopped up and shaped into a pentagram. Her and her boyfriend. 2 cops on the case had faulty intel. Apparently Lewis, the original suspected father, was the only one they could cling to for answers. How they got into their heads that he was the father must have been from Lucinda. Yeah, she was a gossiping town. A town with a population barely scratching at 50. Every store and building on this street looked like it was one gust of wind from blowing into the swamp. Going from dark brown to something else. Something unnatural. Desmond had a laundry list of excuses for why he was walking on cement throughout life. His one good eye, lack of education, lack of opportunity, lack of family. Yeah, there was no school here, no place for advancement in education. Now, there used to be a church that offered classes in the mornings, but that church burned down under mysterious circumstances. What few children remained were sent away. Desmond, as far as he knew, was the youngest person in all of Frenier. See, as a ghost town, Fernier no longer had a resident population, and there are no official population statistics available. There's nothing official about Fernier. It simply lingers, caught between two worlds. That's how Desmond felt. He never knew his parents. Mom died giving birth to him. Daddy took off before his first birthday. Luckily, he had an uncle who cared. Unc, as Desmond affectionately called him, did his best. He could barely raise himself, let alone keep a baby alive, fed, clothed, and housed. For Desmond, ignorance was truly bliss. He had no idea how much he actually had it better than other people. He only knew what he had, and that was very little. No matter how hard he scrubbed, no matter how many times he rinsed out that damn sponge, this brain stain wasn't going nowhere. It became an obsession. Why the hell won't this come out? Why won't this blend in? He was almost transfixed by its relentlessness, its refusal to fade away, its striking resemblance to his own eye. And before he knew it, it was noon. That's when the stragglers started straggling in. But today it was empty. And they ain't never empty on Monday, at noon. Maybe all the regulars had been scared off by the suicide. Can't blame him, Desmond thought. Lewis had been a regular ever since he started remembering faces. Now he was gone. Well, most of them. Why had he done it? What was taking him to the grave? That wasn't for Desmond to sort out. That was for the cops. Eventually, truth rises to the surface. That was another nugget of advice that Unc told Desmond. Ever since the heart attack, Unc spent most of his time curled up in bed. On a good day, he'd make it to the kitchen. On a bad day, which was most days, he'd make it to the bathroom and then back to the bed. It was on Desmond to bring him food, keep him clean, keep him sorted, as Unc said. But that particular morning, Unc been real quiet, even more than usual. When Desmond brought him eggs and bacon, Unc didn't touch it. He just stared up at the ceiling, whispering something. Desmond thought maybe Unc was talking to him, so he leaned in real close to give a better listen. But he couldn't make it out. None of it. It all sounded like gibberish. As he was about to leave, Unc grabbed his wrist. Now, Unc was looking right at him.
This world is no longer ours.
Desmond asked what that meant, but Unc just turned on his side and closed his eyes. The conversation typically ran about that long, so Desmond didn't pay much mind to it. 6 months of mostly lying in bed might make you say an extra crazy thing or two. Walking to work was a breeze, not literally. It was 6 blocks away, but those 6 blocks was blazing. New Orleans near the swamp will do that to you, eternally drenched in sweat. He was wiping his forehead before he even made it out the front screen door that needed to be fixed. And it didn't help that Desmond suffered from asthma too, one of the main sicknesses he'd been contending with for as long as he knew how. Everything in Unc's tiny house had to be fixed. Just like this town, standing on one leg, the 6 blazing blocks were empty. Occasionally he would see a dog or a straggler from a bar who hadn't made it all the way home the night before. This morning was no different, except for that stain of brain. It was almost 2 p.m., not one customer. And it began to dawn on Desmond that if the bar went away, he ain't gonna have nothing. What if nobody come back? What if Lewis' suicide was the last straw for the few number of locals who came to this bar? What if wasn't a question before? There ain't no backup plan, ain't no plan B. This was it, frog's legs, this was it. Desmond stepped outside, looked around. Felt like a storm was brewing. Clouds were shaking. They looked angry. Air had done that thing it do right before big rain where it sucks up the wind towards the sky and just leave you all alone. You and your thoughts, the silence of a ghost town right before a storm. Desmond thought better than to stay outside. People wasn't going to keep him company. At least he could do was put on some music. See, Unc had a record player at the end of the bar near the bathroom. Unc kept the good stuff at home. Except for one. It was given to him by some traveling blues singer, a lady to boot. Now, most blues singers wasn't women, but Unc said she stole his heart.
Something about it. The way she looked, the way she moved, the way she smelled.
Said she was out of this world. But there weren't no pictures of her anywhere. All Desmond had was her music. He closed his eyes and tried to picture what she looked like.
Last time I saw the sun, I saw sun be. Rip the shadows off my skin. Let our hearts feel the heat. Down that long side road to where the shadows dwell. On this whisper call my name, but I can't break the spell. Oh, come take my hand. Let's dance the light. We'll chase the blues away. Losing ourselves tonight. When the moon spills its secrets on cobblestone path, we'll follow the rhythm to where the sorrow never lasts. Echoes of laughter, let's talk in the air. With that crisp step we take, we'll find freedom everywhere. Oh, come take my hand.
Sometimes, when you try real hard, you could see a figure. And there were a bunch of times when Desmond would wake up in the middle of the night because he couldn't sleep. So he'd go out in the little living room and there'd be Unc sitting alone, listening to that record of hers.
Heals the soul.
Can't argue with that. It sure did know how to light a fire. Desmond let the words of this mystery musician lift his spirit. Closed his eyes. Yeah, that did the trick. Starting with a light tap against the floor, followed by a quick 1, 2, 3 against the bar counter. He sang along as if he was on that stage, in that booth, where it was that this song had found its groove. Desmond felt the tunes in his bones, felt his soul levitate, and then he opened his eyes. It was dark. How could it be dark out already? Sunset this time of year was always around 8, which was 7 hours away. What kind of storm was this that had been brewing? Yeah, surely it will pass. It had to pass. Desmond walked over to the window, the one tiny window just above the front door. You had to get on a chair to see outside through the one tiny window. It wasn't raining. It wasn't anything, just black. Desmond checked his watch again. 1:23 p.m. This didn't make no sense, no damn sense at all. He had to ask himself something. What if this storm wasn't going to pass? What if Julia Brown was back? Now, the legend of Julia Brown goes back at least 100 years. She was a Creole voodoo priestess who lived in the nearby settlement of Frenier in the early 1900s. Julia was known to heal the sick and protect the town. But locals began to fear her as her chants grew darker with age. You'd often catch her singing,
One day, one day, one day I'm gonna die. One day, I'm gonna take the whole town with me. One day I'm gonna die and I'm gonna take the whole town with me. One day I'm gonna die and I'm gonna take the whole town with me.
She'd look you right in your eyes. You passed by with a smile on her face when she would sing that. On the day of her funeral in 1915, this big old hurricane struck, taking out Frenier, Ruddock, and other nearby settlements, killing dozens. Many people believe her curse or prophecy came true and that her spirit still lingers in the swamps. Locals and visitors often report crazy voices and glowing lights and apparitions in and around the swamp. Montauk Swamp, to be specific. Julia Brown is said to appear as a shadowy figure on the water or amongst the trees, especially near her unmarked grave. Some people even say you could hear her little lullaby chant in the wind at night. The area got more legends than just Julia. They got the Cajun werewolf-like creature, haunt the swamps, punishes the wicked or the unfaithful. Tales of cursed creatures or swamp devils, part human, part beast, add to the area's fearsome reputation. Montauk Swamp hides the remains of Ruddock and Frenier. When they do them tour guides, the visitors say that they can see the decaying wood piling from old homes and rail lines, giving the impression that the swamp swallowed the towns whole. Some will say swamp is a portal to the underworld, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is easily pierced. Combination of voodoo, unmarked graves, tragic deaths, and spiritual energy contributes to its haunted reputation that has made it uninhabitable, except for the few unlucky souls who were born there into a life that can barely breathe. Montauk Swamp, not too far from Frog's Legs, loomed over Frenier at all times, but especially at night. Ever since that 1915 hurricanes, locals will tell you don't walk alone after the sunset. That's when the portal opens and the monsters roam free. To Unc, this was no fairy tale. This was not some myth to keep children in line. No, he had newspaper clippings to prove it. People who vanished, seemingly into thin air, over and over again. Popo had no leads, not one. After a while, they stopped caring, brushing it off as deadbeat drug addicts who got what they deserved. And one of those people who went missing was Desmond's father. Now, this was back when the bar felt like a bar. Right after Katrina, New Orleans had a spotlight that stretched so wide, even Frog's Legs got a little love from the outside world. Musicians would occasionally pop over after doing the gig at Jazz Fest. The bar was packed. Damn near 50 people packed sometimes. Desmond's daddy, DeAndre, was the bartender back then. See, when you're young, you don't know any better. You think you do, but you don't. DeAndre was closing up as Unc finished his last drink. He asked Unc to wash the bar for a minute so he'd go outside and take a smoke. That's when Unc heard it. Silence. It was as if Unc's ears slid right off his head. Couldn't hear nothing. He tilted his head over to one side and started smacking the other side like he had swimmer's ears. Got cold, too. Real cold. Damn near bitter. Unc walked outside to see what was taking DeAndre so long to finish the smoke. Maybe he was chatting up some girl. Nah, DeAndre was gone. Now he's stuck with a 6-month-old baby. Unc never understood how DeAndre could have left. He knew how much DeAndre loved Desmond. Said Desmond was special because he had only one good eye.
He the only one who could see me with that eye.
That's what DeAndre told Unc about Desmond. He told him that all the time. Now all of a sudden, he gone? It been nearly 20 years since that day, when the clouds turned black and his best friend / brother went with the wind. Unc went to the cops, and they said they'd look into it, but Unc knew what that meant. It meant he was on his own to try and find his brother. But there was only one place to look when people go missing around Frenier. Montauk Swamp.
The place between worlds.
When the empty road calls and it stretches far away, when the empty road, darling, becomes my only way, yeah. Your shadow creeps upon each mile I will sway. Oh, I'm lost in the night with no stars to guide.
was a 4th or 5th time she was turning 50. Lucinda. She was known around these parts as a gatekeeper. She ran a small bait and tackle store on the edge of town. When Unc went inside, there were happy number 50 cars displayed from wall to wall. She had turned 50 year before, and the year before that too. Lucinda was a kook, to say the least. She moved slow, had the scar that ran down from her right shoulder all the way to her wrist. How she managed to stay in business all these years is one of Frenier's greatest mysteries. But she was the closest thing that this tiny town with no population had to a historian. Someone who believed enough in local legends would tell you when they started and how to avoid becoming part of their story.
Get home before the sun sets. Shadows can't get you in the light.
He wanted answers, not a campfire tale. He persisted. What she offered was not a condolence.
Your brother is no longer with us. But that don't mean he gone.
Unc put up pictures of DeAndre all over town. Knowing that it wouldn't do any good, still, he had to do something. Some of those pictures are still hanging today, 20 years later. That's how little has changed the day DeAndre went missing. After that, Unc took over as bartender. Started closing early. It cost him business, no doubt about it. Small price to pay for a peace of mind. But if he went missing, who was going to mind Desmond? The least he could do, Unc thought, stay alive till Des was grown enough to be his own man. And it wasn't easy. As part of Unc held hope that one day DeAndre would show up. It would be as if everything that happened in between was just a nightmare. Lucinda's words dug their claws deeper and deeper into Unc's mind.
Your brother is no longer with us. But that don't mean he gone.
Dez could smell the smoke, and there ain't been not one customer all day. And it was early too for it to be that dark. And now he smelled smoke? It wasn't coming from inside the bar. You could go from the front of Frog Legs to the back in under 10 seconds. So it wasn't coming from inside, that meant it must be coming from outside. The last place he wanted to go right now was outside. Dez didn't have much to believe in, but abiding by Unc's rule to never walk around Frenier alone at night was the closest thing he had to a law. It smelled just like Unc's cigarettes. Had Unc got out of bed and walked all the way to the bar? The farthest he'd been in 6 months was the fridge. That was quite a leap, even for Unc. Dez stepped outside. No Unc, no nothing. Streets was empty and dark. He looked around, not a sight, not a sound. Didn't help that there weren't any lights on the street, or any other street for damn near 2 miles. The closest thing to civilization was the swamp. But that smoke, he could still smell it. It felt fresh. Desmond turned around and pulled the gate down and locked it shut. Sounding of sheet metal sliding down and hitting the ground was typically a common sound. It meant that his day was done. Today, though, his day had just begun. And he knew it. He could feel it. Like that smoke. He was desperately trying not to call attention to himself. God forbid whatever is out there that's out there knows that he's here. Sometimes when you can't see, it's scarier than what you can. Right now, he couldn't see nothing. Except for that damn smoke. He could see it now. There was this sole strand of fog that looked like it was hovering just above the ground from around the corner. Desmond followed it, trying to find out where it coming from. Now he had a guiding light in the form of a shadow acting like some sort of compass, sitting down one desolate, dark street after another, until he found the start of that smoke. Fire. burning down the old Ursuline Convent, one of the oldest buildings in Mississippi Valley. See, in the early 18th century, during the French colonization of Louisiana, the colony was largely populated by men, soldiers, traders, convicts. To civilize the colony and promote family life, the French king set up for young women to be sent from convents and orphanages in France to marry these men. These women came about 1728, brought by the Ursuline nuns. They were housed at the old Ursuline convent. Now, the third floor shutters was always tightly closed, nailed shut. Legend says that after the girls arrived, strange deaths and sicknesses spread in the French Quarter. Locals thought the girls had brought something evil with them. Some say vampires escaped from those trunks and were locked away in the attic to prevent them from feeding. Another rumor said that the Ursuline nuns, who once took care of the casket girls, never seemed to age, feeding into the idea that the convent was harboring immortal beings. The old Ursuline convict has stood for centuries, until now. Desmond was watching it float in the sky. So why the hell was the front door open? Wide open. Sole strand of smoke seemed to now illuminate red, acting like a pathway into the old Ursuline convent. Desmond was hypnotized. He let it guide him as the entire house seared and screamed. Something appeared to go unscathed. He couldn't tell what it was at first. When he was standing right in front of it, it was a book. Big book, damn near 3 feet long, weighing 150 pounds. If he had to take a guess, the pages felt like skin from an animal. Many different animals. Some even felt human. He combed through each page, transfixed. The fire continued to rage, but Desmond remained unmoved. His breathing, he could breathe the air. His asthma disappeared. His knees, the arthritis in his knees dissolved. In his eye, his bad eye, he could now see clear as day out of it. Now the question is what he saw. On the page in front of him, this book that Desmond was holding, it had a name.
The Devil's Bible.
When I'm by your side, time weaves into sweet silence. Lost in your gaze, the world fades to whispers. If you leave this place, I'd crumble like old paper. With every heartbeat, I cling to what we made. Stay on, stay on, stay on, stay on. Without you, I can't breathe another day. Stay on, stay on, stay on, oh, stay on. In the fading dusk, the memories keep on rolling like a haunting tune that sways me into shadows. If I lose that spark, I fear I won't recover. To feel the night, I must let go of your hand. Stay on, stay on, stay on, stay on. If you leave me, I won't find my way. Stay on, stay on, stay on, please stay on. But in this holy place, we crafted in the silence, I'll hold your dreams till the stars start to